Imagine writing, producing, and entirely mastering 52 release-quality musical tracks in just 90 days.
Which is just an insane volume of work.
Right. It's wild. And now imagine doing all of that with absolutely zero prior experience in music production, like no background in music theory, no, years spent hunched over mixing boards.
No instrumental mastery whatsoever.
Exactly. Just 90 days from a complete blank slate to 4 fully finished albums. And usually when we talk about a feat like that involving a new piece of generative technology, there's this underlying assumption of surrender.
Oh, yeah, like you're just pushing a button.
Yeah, it's framed as this roller coaster ride. You pull the harness down, the algorithm takes over, and you just sort of throw your hands up and become a passenger to the machine.
And we see that literally everywhere right now. People are generating entire worlds, essays, images, all with a single low-stakes click.
Right.
And that low-stakes click is kind of the defining characteristic of our current era. The machine does the heavy computational lifting, the creative interpolation, and we just consume whatever it spits out.
It's very comfortable.
It is incredibly comfortable, it's frictionless, but it also, it fundamentally alters the role of the human from an active creator to just a passive curator of whatever the black box decides to hand you.
But when you step into the world of this particular deep dive we're doing today, that whole roller coaster metaphor just completely falls apart.
It really does.
Yeah. Today, we are looking at a creator who did exactly what I just described. 52 tracks in 90 days, but not by surrendering to the AI. Instead, we're looking at an artist operating under the brand name Walkingkeys. And they treat the AI not as an autopilot, but as this unruly, hyper-responsive instrument.
The human absolutely refuses to let go of the steering wheel. It's a really radical demonstration of what we might call narrative sovereignty. Like the AI is the engine, sure, but the human is explicitly designing the roadmap, the destination, and the exact speed at which they're traveling.
Right. And welcome to you, the listener, as we actually unpack the mechanics of how this was achieved. Welcome to the deep dive.
Glad to be here for this one.
So the foundational text we are analyzing today documents that initial 90-day rapid learning immersion into AI-assisted music production. But that sprint is just the prologue, really.
It's just the setup.
Right. Our mission today is to track the transition from that frantic learning phase into a highly deliberate, meticulously architected 3-month artistic project. We are unpacking the culmination of this whole effort, which is the upcoming album dropping on June 18th, 2026, titled Organic Machine.
And to do that, we are going to basically deconstruct the hidden structural math, the incredibly dense cinematic lyrical sequences, and, the specific workflows that Walkingkeys utilize.
Because there is so much hiding under the surface here.
Oh, an unbelievable amount, because by decoding these elements, we actually reveal the central thesis of Organic Machine, which is this strong assertion that human consciousness is and always will be the original source code.
I love that phrase. And I want to start by breaking down the mechanics of that transition. Because to really understand Organic Machine, we have to understand the specific cognitive shift that happened during those preceding 90 days.
You have to know where they started.
Exactly. The case study describes this trap that so many people fall into right now, which it calls tool hopping and passive consumption.
Oh, yeah, the fragmented exploration phase. We've all been there.
Oh, totally.
You open a new generative tool, you type in a basic prompt like, write a funny song about a cat, and you get a chuckle out of the surprisingly coherent result, and then you just close the app.
Right, you haven't actually learned anything.
Exactly. You haven't learned how the neural network interprets your phrasing. You've basically just pulled the lever on a slot machine. But Walkingkeys explicitly decided to pivot from that dopamine-driven loop into deep vertical specialization.
And the constraint they applied to do that was fascinating.
Yeah.
They locked into music as the exclusive focus, like no generating images, no writing code, just music production.
Which is a critical constraint, because it prevents the dilution of your cognitive resources. When you're mastering a generative model, you're not really learning the software's interface, you're actually learning its linguistic and structural biases.
Right.
So the return on investment here, what the text refers to as the strategic skill stack, was all about acquiring advanced prompt engineering, understanding how to force high-volume lyrical throughput, and most importantly, surviving the trough of disillusionment.
Okay, let's talk about that trough, because I think it's where, it's where most people abandon their AI projects entirely. What does that actually look like in the context of AI music?
So the trough of disillusionment hits when the novelty wears off. That realization sets in that the AI doesn't actually understand what you want. It only understands what you type.
Right, it's entirely literal.
Exactly. So you might prompt for a somber hip-hop beat with a driving bass line. The AI gives you something that sounds superficially correct, but the bass line clashes with the frequency of the kick drum, or maybe the emotional tone of the generated vocal is completely flat.
Yeah, the machine gets you like 80% of the way there in 10 seconds.
Uh-huh.
But that last 20%, actually making it sound like real art, feels totally impossible.
Yeah, it hits a wall. And that initial sprint of 52 tracks was designed specifically to push through that trough. It was about optimizing the learning by doing curve.
Like brute force learning.
Totally. It's figuring out things like, how do you use phonetic spelling to force the AI to syncopate a rhyme? Or, how do you use bracketed metadata to instruct the AI to shift its vocal timbre mid-verse?
Yeah.
Yeah, the raw output of those early tracks was strictly about skill stacking. They were explicitly bypassing perfectionism just to figure out the actual physics of the tool.
So I picture it like learning how to build a spaceship. During those 90 days, you're welding things together, you're making these massive structural mistakes, you're just trying to get the thrusters to fire without blowing up the launch pad.
That's a great way to look at it.
But Organic Machine, this new album, is the actual voyage to Mars. You know how the ship works now. You know how to manipulate the AI. So the question becomes, what are you actually trying to say with it?
Right. And the visual representation of the album answers that question immediately. The cover art for Organic Machine sets this profoundly philosophical destination for the voyage.
Oh man, the cover art. For you listening, let me just describe this visual really quick because it perfectly anchors the conversation.
It's striking.
It really is. Picture a classical stone bust, heavily inspired by ancient Greek or Roman statuary. But it's not static. The right side of the face is aggressively fracturing outward.
Like an explosion.
Yeah, and it's not breaking into pieces of stone. It is shattering into this vibrant, cosmic, digital energy. You have these deep purples, neon pinks, starlight, digital circuitry, and audio waveforms, all woven into this explosive cosmic cloud.
It is the literal collision of the ancient human foundation and the unpredictable potential of the digital frontier.
And layered right onto that imagery is the text that serves as the thesis for everything we're about to discuss. In the top left corner, it says, human consciousness is the original source code. On the bottom left, it says, frequency is everything. And on the right, memory becomes legend.
Let's isolate that first phrase for a second. Human consciousness is the original source code. In the tech world, right, the source code is the foundational architecture of a program.
Right, it's the base reality.
Exactly. It dictates the rules of reality for that software.
Yeah.
So by claiming that human consciousness is the original source code, Walkingkeys is making a radical assertion of human supremacy over the artificial.
Okay, I have to push back on this human supremacy angle just a bit, or at least, play devil's advocate here.
Sure.
If the AI is generating the beat, rendering the melody, and synthesizing the vocal tone based on mathematical probabilities, isn't the human just a very demanding art director?
Yeah, it's a fair question.
Like, can we really say the human mind is the origin point if the machine is doing the heavy lifting of the actual sonic execution?
And that is the exact debate at the heart of this deep dive. And the answer lies in the concept of the spark versus the amplifier.
Okay, break that down.
So the classical bust on the album art represents the enduring nature of human thought, history, and emotional intent. The digital explosion, the AI, is the amplifier. It is the current, the frequency. But the AI cannot generate the original emotional impetus.
Right, it doesn't feel anything.
No, it cannot wake up and feel the need to express the friction of existence.
So the AI has the vocabulary, but absolutely nothing to say.
Precisely. The structure, the origin point, the spark that initiates that fracture and gives it a directional vector, that must come from the human mind. The human provides the why, and the machine provides a highly accelerated how. But to maintain control over that accelerated how, the human needs an incredibly rigorous internal architecture.
Which brings us to how this album is actually constructed. When you look at the track list for Organic Machine, there's a structural blueprint hiding in plain sight. It isn't just a random collection of songs.
Not all.
Walkingkeys anchored the narrative progression of the album on Nikola Tesla's 369 mathematical framework.
Yes, the Tesla math. Tesla famously claimed that if you understood the magnificence of the numbers 3, 6, and 9, you would basically have a key to the universe.
Which is a bold claim.
Very bold, but in various esoteric, physical, and mathematical frameworks, these numbers represent the fundamental vectors of energy, frequency, and vibration. And Walkingkeys wove this architecture directly into the thematic arc of the album. They utilized tracks 3, 6, and 9 as the load-bearing pillars of the project's entire philosophy.
Okay, let's break down the mechanics of this, starting with track 3. The song is titled Rough Around the Edges, and the lyrics immediately announce where the artist is in their journey. In the chorus, we hear, "When you find a diamond, it's rough around the edges."
So in numerology and architectural theory, the number 3 represents the beginning of manifestation. It's the raw, unpolished potential of a newly materialized force.
Okay.
Now, apply that to the creator emerging from that grueling 90-day sprint. They've acquired the strategic skill stack. They know how to bend the AI to their will. The power is there, but it is jagged. It's unrefined.
So the diamond has been pulled from the earth, but it still has dirt clinging to it, like it hasn't been cut to catch the light yet.
Exactly. Rough around the edges embodies this state. The artist is acknowledging their new capabilities while simultaneously acknowledging their lack of polish. It's the realization of the diamond state.
And you can really feel this aggressive, almost defensive posture in the lyrics of track 3. It says, "First impressions got him feeling dizzy, teddy bear dressed as a grizzly, like a serrated blade. I am rough around the edges."
Yeah, there's a real edge to it.
It sounds to me like someone who has this massive new generative power at their fingertips, and they don't quite know how to play nice with the rest of the world yet. It's a serrated blade. It cuts, but it tears the fabric.
Which is an inherently unstable state to remain in. If you stay at a 3, you remain raw potential forever. To refine that blade, to polish that diamond, you must subject it to a new force.
Right.
And that leads directly to the next mathematical pillar, which is track 6. The song is titled Pressure.
The transition from the raw stone to the polishing wheel.
Exactly.
And the swagger on this track is unbelievable. The lyrics say, "If pressure makes diamonds, I'll never shine then."
Yeah.
Because the pressure they're applying is like 2 infants high-fiving.
That imagery of 2 infants high-fiving is just brilliant. But let's look at the mechanical function of the number 6 here. If 3 is manifestation, 6 represents friction, harmony, and the necessary environmental resistance required to achieve balance.
Okay.
You cannot polish a diamond without applying immense sustained friction.
But the artist is complaining that there isn't enough friction. Like, they're looking around at the current landscape of AI creators, people who are just passively consuming and tool hopping, and they're finding zero resistance.
Exactly. The artist has mastered the instrument of AI to such a degree that the surrounding environment is no longer challenging them. They're actually lamenting the lack of true competition.
Because later they say, "I need some competition," because I'm not even trying. They are literally begging for the pressure required to reach that perfect 6th state of harmony.
Because without external resistance, the creator actually has to manufacture their own friction.
Wait, how do you mean?
Well, when you're using AI, the friction of the blank page is removed, right? The AI will instantly generate a melody. If you accept the first output, you experience zero pressure.
Oh, right.
So the infant's high-fiving is a metaphor for the low-bar acceptance of mediocre generative art. To reach the state of 6, the creator must artificially inject pressure into the workflow by rejecting the AI's 1st, 2nd, and 50th outputs, forcing the machine into tighter and tighter constraints.
So we have 3 as the raw, newly manifested capability. We have 6 as the necessary friction and applied pressure to refine that capability. I'm trying to picture how this cycle actually resolves. What does 9 represent in this mathematical progression? Because usually 9 is viewed as an ending.
It's not just an ending, it is the ultimate completion of the cycle. It is the mastery of self and thought. Track 9 is simply titled Think.
Think. Okay.
And it's here that the overarching thesis of the album, that human consciousness is the original source code, reaches its absolute peak. The lyrics deliberately echo René Descartes. I think, therefore I am.
I really want to read this lyrical section because it feels like the philosophical core of the entire project. It goes, "So if I stop thinking, I am no longer a man. Free will is tied to free thought, and we're giving away every piece that we've got."
And that is the ultimate warning regarding generative technology. The climax of the 369 architecture isn't about making better music. It's about preserving human agency. Track 9 asserts that delegating your thinking to a machine isn't just a shortcut. It is an abdication of your humanity.
The lyrics literally say, "To salvage what I can, I write my lyrics by hand. Let my thinking define who I am."
That right there is the cycle completed. The artist found the raw potential at 3, applied the grueling pressure of the craft at 6, and arrived at the ultimate realization at 9. The mastery of human thought is the final defense against obsolescence.
Way.
The human must assert its supremacy over the artificial by maintaining absolute control over the lyrical narrative.
And that insistence on human-authored lyrics brings up a really fascinating mechanical question regarding how this album was actually made.
For the workflow stuff.
Yeah. If the human is writing the lyrics by hand, how do they force the AI to execute them correctly? The case study noted that during the 90-day sprint, the artists discovered that rap and hip-hop were by far the best genres for skill growth. Why is that? Why not pop or EDM or country?
It really comes down to the computational difficulty of rhythmic complexity and lyrical density.
Okay, make that make sense for me.
Consider a standard pop song. It often relies on a very predictable, 4-on-the-floor beat, simple AABB rhyme schemes, and, symmetrical syllable counts. An AI language model and an AI audio generator can synthesize that with very little human intervention because it aligns perfectly with the probabilistic math the AI is built upon.
Right. It wants to resolve to a predictable pattern.
Exactly. It takes the path of least resistance. But hip-hop is fundamentally different. It requires a hyper-sophisticated feedback loop between the human and the machine. Think about the cadence of a complex rap verse. It involves internal rhymes, syncopated rhythms, triplet flows, sudden shifts in tempo.
So you can't just feed the AI a paragraph of text and expect it to rap it correctly.
Not at all. If you feed an AI a dense, complex verse, it will stumble, it'll misplace the emphasis on the wrong syllables, or it will just rush the delivery to cram it into a rigid 44 measure.
Which sounds terrible.
Oh, it sounds robotic. To get the AI to understand the cadence, the human has to become a master director. They have to use punctuation as musical notation. They have to break the words apart phonetically so the AI stresses the correct consonant.
That sounds exhausting.
It is. The precision and prompting required to achieve a flawless hip-hop delivery forces the human to exert total control over the machine.
And when you analyze the lyrics on Organic Machine, you see this lyrical cinema on full display. The wordplay isn't just clever, it is structurally demanding.
Very much so.
We have to break down the movie sequences, because this is where the sheer computational difficulty of what Walkingkeys achieved becomes apparent. Let's look at track 4, Get Smart. There is a run of Tom Hanks movies woven into a single, continuous verse.
The Tom Hanks sequence is a prime example of applying extreme constraints to the creative process.
Listen to how this flows. Catch me if you can. I'm Tom Hanks' mission. I'm big now. Zoltar's vision. Houston, we have a problem. Oh, the whole crew's missing. I'm in a league of my own. No competition flow. Like the Da Vinci Code, masterful composition go against me. That's the road to perdition.
It's just wild. 6 Tom Hanks movies back-to-back, seamlessly integrated into the meter of the verse. Catch Me If You Can, Big, Apollo 13, A League of Their Own, The Da Vinci Code, and Road to Perdition.
It's incredible. But beyond just being a fun puzzle for the listener, why Tom Hanks? What is the thematic mechanism at play here?
The choice of actor is highly intentional. In the structural language of this album, Tom Hanks symbolizes masterful composition and extreme versatility. Think about the mechanical reality of Hanks's career.
Yep.
He possesses the unique ability to seamlessly transition from the childlike innocence and physical comedy of a boy trapped in a man's body in Big to the grim, calculated, morally ambiguous mob enforcer in Road to Perdition.
Yeah, he has infinite range. He never feels out of place, regardless of the genre.
Exactly. And Walkingkeys is utilizing this cultural metaphor to demonstrate their own unparalleled range and lyrical agility. By stringing these specific titles together in a way that actually advances the narrative logic of the verse, the artist is proving something vital.
Which is?
That the human mind can weave cultural connections and double entendres that an AI relying purely on algorithmic probability would really struggle to conceptualize with such resonant nuance.
Because an AI might know that all those movies star Tom Hanks, but it doesn't intuitively understand the emotional juxtaposition between Big and Road to Perdition and how to use that juxtaposition to brag about its own lyrical flow.
Correct. It's a flex of masterful human composition directing the artificial voice.
Flow like the Da Vinci Code. It literally is a puzzle within a puzzle. Now, if the Tom Hanks run in track 4 was a flex of versatility and composition, the movie sequence in track 3 is a pure flex of brute force.
We're back to rough around the edges, the raw potential track.
Yes, the track that represents the jagged diamond. The artist drops a sequence of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson movies that is frankly staggering to read, let alone to force an AI to rhythmically deliver. For you listening, try to catch all 12 of these as I read the run.
Good luck.
Here we go. Walking tall tongue with a sting, strong like a rock scorpion king, smashing machine rampage assault.
Yeah.
And if I crack, it was San Andreas' fault. Wake up. Matrix, take the red one rundown. Faster, doom, red rum, get smart, be cool. Don't get too rattled. G.I. Joe, knowing is half the battle.
Okay, let's isolate the titles there. Walking Call, The Scorpion King, The Smashing Machine, Rampage, San Andreas, Red One, The Rundown, Faster, Doom, Get Smart, Be Cool, and G.I. Joe.
That's 12.
12 movies integrated into 12 lines of meter.
I am trying to wrap my head around the structural difficulty of this. Look at the syllables required to fit San Andreas' fault in Matrix. Take the red one into a consistent time signature. You are fighting against the natural rhythm of the words to make them fit the beat. What is the thematic purpose of choosing Dwayne Johnson for this specific structural challenge?
Well, if Tom Hanks represents versatility, Dwayne Johnson represents pure, unadulterated brute strength, relentlessness, and resilience.
Right.
Remember the mathematical placement of this track. This is track 3. This is the emergence from the 90-day sprint. In that context, this run signifies the sheer force of will required to survive the friction of mastering a new, incredibly intimidating technology.
It's like you literally have to become a smashing machine to break through the algorithmic guardrails and force the AI to do what you want.
That is the perfect analogy. The workflow of a creator in this space is a constant battle against the default settings of the machine. You're battling the doom of a blank interface. You're trying to move faster to keep up with the generative speed of the AI, which can produce iterations way faster than you can evaluate them.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And you are desperately trying not to crack under the San Andreas fault level of seismic shifts happening in the tech landscape every single week.
So injecting 12 Dwayne Johnson movies isn't just a lyrical trick. It's a manifestation of the brute force required to maintain narrative sovereignty.
It is the human artist asserting their resilience against the machine.
This raises a critical question about the daily reality of the creator-AI relationship. If the AI is this massive, turbulent machine, and the human is the source code trying to control it through brute force and masterful composition, how do they actually coexist in the workflow?
That's where track 5 comes in.
Right. Track 5, titled Free Man, provides what might be the most vivid mechanical analogy for this on the entire album.
You're referring to the Frankenstein methodology.
Right. The lyrics state, when the flow is leaking, no plumber needed direct the current, like Frankenstein speaking. Typically, when cultural commentators talk about AI and Frankenstein, the AI is framed as the monster. It's the uncontrollable creation, breaking loose, misunderstanding its programming, and, destroying the village.
Yeah, that's the standard fear-based cultural anxiety. The assumption is that we're building something that will inevitably turn on us. But Walkingkeys completely inverts that assumption. In this lyrical framework, the artist is not the victim fleeing from the monster. The artist is Dr. Frankenstein himself, standing on the roof of the laboratory during a thunderstorm, holding a lightning rod.
Oh, wow.
The AI is not the monster. The AI is the lightning. It is raw, elemental, unstructured current.
Direct at the current.
Exactly. Lightning is incredibly powerful, but without a rod to catch it and a wire to direct it, it just strikes randomly and dissipates. The human creator acts as the conductive pathway. They capture the raw generative energy of the AI and direct it into a structured, intentional vessel.
And the lyrics immediately following that are crucial. Never guilty of high treason, devoted to high reason.
This is a definitive philosophical stance on the legitimacy of AI-assisted art. There's a prevalent attitude that using AI is somehow cheating, right? That it's high treason against the sacred suffering process of traditional artistry.
Which you hear all the time right now.
All the time. But Walkingkeys rejects this. They assert that harnessing this tool is high reason. It's the logical evolution of the creative process. It is taking the raw current of our technological era and giving it a soul.
But catching lightning requires an incredibly grounded system. If you are standing on the roof catching millions of volts of raw data, your own mind has to be immensely organized, or you're just going to be fried.
You'll short circuit.
Yeah, you can't just be flailing around, which connects perfectly to the recurring references to Sherlock Holmes.
Yes, the concept of the mind palace, which appears in both track 5 and track 8.
In Free Man track 5, we get the lines, "Too many look and don't see," like Conan Doyle told me. So find me at 221B Baker Street solving mysteries. And then in track 8, the W, it's stated even more explicitly, "This mind palace is Holmes to me." Now, I understand mind palace is a memory technique, but how does that apply to the workflow of an AI music producer?
Think about the mechanics of iteration we discussed earlier. In a traditional recording studio, a band might record 3 takes of a chorus. In an AI workflow, a single prompt might yield 10 variations in 30 seconds.
Right.
You tweak the prompt slightly, you get 10 more. Within an hour, you might have generated 200 distinct audio stems.
The volume of data is just staggering. It's an information overload.
Precisely. The true modern creator must therefore operate like a master detective. The mind palace is the cognitive architecture required to sort, tag, and organize this massive influx of generated content.
You have to mentally categorize the stems. Like,
Wow.
this one has the right vocal inflection, but the bass is muddy. This one has a perfect beat, but the rapper sounds synthetic.
Exactly. You are Holmes in the mind palace. You're observing the chaos of the outputs, finding the clues, the perfect snare hit, the ideal vocal breath, and piecing them together. The lyric says, "Too many look and don't see." A passive consumer looks at the AI output and just accepts it.
They don't look closer.
But the detective sees the underlying context. They see how a microscopic fragment of output B can be grafted onto output F to create something entirely new. The AI provides the raw evidence. The human detective deduces the narrative.
That need for deep context, for understanding the grand narrative beneath the surface data, leads us directly into the opening track of the album, Not Prophecy. This track really establishes the intellectual stakes of the entire project.
It does. It sets a very stark, almost defensive perimeter around the artist's philosophy.
It's a very dark, atmospheric opening, and the lyrics come out swinging against the idea of societal manipulation, institution, mental movement manipulated, need restitution, rest assured the best are most hated. Tuition isn't paid until the tests are created. But it doesn't just outline a problem. It offers a specific cognitive tool as a solution. It calls for biblical competency as a means of logical observation.
Let's pause here, because it is vital that we're incredibly precise about what this text is actually communicating. We must look at this impartially and structurally. The album is not functioning as a religious mandate or a political manifesto. The terms used are metaphorical tools.
Absolutely, because phrases like manipulated institutions and biblical competency can immediately trigger ideological reflexes in a listener. But within the architectural logic of organic machine, they serve a very specific utilitarian function for the creator.
Right. To prompt an AI effectively, you need a vast vocabulary. But to prompt an AI to create something meaningful, you need more than vocabulary. You need an understanding of human archetypes. The phrase biblical competency is utilized here as a metaphor for deep, holistic, historical literacy.
Meaning understanding the oldest stories we have.
Yes. It's about understanding the grand narratives of sacrifice, redemption, exodus, and betrayal that have structured human consciousness for millennia. The AI's neural network has ingested all of human literature. Everything. So if you only prompt it with modern slang or surface-level trends, you are accessing a tiny, shallow fraction of its capability. But if you possess biblical competency, meaning a deep literacy of archetypal human struggles, you can pull the deepest levers of the machine.
You are using the original source code of human history to direct the current of the AI.
Exactly. You achieve logical observation because you aren't swayed by the temporary manipulated movements of the present. You see the deeper historical patterns. And the purpose of anchoring yourself in that deep literacy is revealed in the chorus of that track. Write the light I want to see. The difference between them and me. I believe the word I'm selling.
Write the light. That is a beautiful distillation of the creator's mandate. If you understand the deep history, you aren't just reacting to the dark. You have the structural knowledge required to author the light. You can articulate a vision of the future because you understand the foundational codes of the past.
But transitioning from a passive consumer to an author capable of writing the light requires more than just historical literacy. It requires an excruciating level of personal discipline.
Oh, yeah.
The grandest philosophy in the world means absolutely nothing if you don't sit down and execute the work. Which brings us to the final major thematic pillar of the album, the mechanisms of 10x personal growth.
This is where the soaring philosophy of the album crashes back down into the daily, granular grind of actually making art. In track 5, Free Man, there's a line that speaks directly to the reality of the daily workflow. Lean on me, Mr. Clark, lead with a strong hand. That is a direct reference to the 1989 film Lean on Me and the real-life high school principal Joe Clark, correct?
It is. And Joe Clark is the ultimate cultural symbol of strict accountability, unyielding discipline, and tough love.
He's the principal with the baseball bat and the megaphone, locking the doors to keep the bad elements out of his school. How does that apply to the mind of a solo AI music producer?
Well, when you embark on a 90-day sprint or a highly deliberate 3-month album build, the biggest threat to your success isn't the complexity of the technology. The technology is designed to be easy.
Right.
The biggest threat is your own lack of internal friction.
Procrastination. The temptation of good enough.
Exactly. Because generative AI removes the physical barriers to creation, the temptation to accept the first decent output is overwhelming. To actually grow your skills by a factor of 10, you have to be Joe Clark to yourself.
You have to lock your own doors.
You do. You cannot rely on an external boss or a record label to push you. You have to lock the doors of your own mind palace. You have to lead with a strong hand, forcing yourself to reject mediocrity, forcing yourself to rewrite the prompt 20 times, forcing yourself to learn the mixing software instead of just letting the AI auto-master the track.
You have to become your own strictest disciplinarian. And when you enforce that level of Joe Clark discipline upon your workflow, you set yourself up to achieve what Track 8 calls the W. I am obsessed with the wordplay in the title of this track. The W. It means the W, as in securing the win. But it also literally means to double you, to multiply your own capabilities, to achieve that exponential personal growth.
The lyrics go, past self, I can double you. In the future, I'll do it again. It's the mantra of iterative growth.
To explain exactly how to handle the psychological pressure of that continuous growth, Walkingkeys constructs an incredibly intricate metaphor using the WNBA. This entire lyrical run is just a masterclass in applying sports psychology to the modern creative workflow.
It really is.
Let's break down the mechanics of this first. First, we get the phenomenon of Caitlin Clark. When you're great, handle pressure like Caitlin Clark. People will go out of their way to make it hard, bring you down in whatever way they can, running man. They're gunning for you, fam.
So, in the cultural zeitgeist, Caitlin Clark represents the unprecedented, suffocating weight of expectation and hypervisibility. When you are innovating, when you are stepping out as a true creator who is treating AI as an instrument rather than a toy, you immediately place a target on your back.
Because you're challenging the status quo.
Yes. Traditionalists will critique your methods, claiming it isn't real art. Fellow AI users will critique your intensity, wondering why you're working so hard when the machine can do it for you. People will go out of their way to make it hard. The lesson here is that you must maintain your shooting form, your creative integrity, regardless of the defensive pressure being applied by the culture around you.
But you cannot withstand that pressure in isolation. The very next lines bring in the structural support of the team. We need our own Sophie Cunningham. Any attack will cost them all way. Not for me, I've lost them. Water on wax. I add it. Take and roll. Layup. Aaliyah Boston.
This is where the workflow becomes systemic. Sophie Cunningham represents the enforcer. In a creative context, this is your structural boundary. It's the mental framework, the Joe Clark discipline, that protects your creative time and energy from external attacks and distractions.
So it allows the creator to say, not for me, I've lost them, meaning they're ignoring the noise and focusing purely on the work.
Exactly. And then Aaliyah Boston enters the metaphor.
What does she represent?
Aaliyah Boston represents the flawless, dominant execution of the fundamentals. Pick and roll. The layup. In the AI production workflow, this is the daily unglamorous grind. It's generating the assets, organizing the stems in the mind palace, refining the lyrical meter, and balancing the EQ frequencies. You need the spectacular, paradigm-shifting vision of a Caitlin Clark, but you absolutely cannot win the game without the relentless, fundamental consistency of an Aaliyah Boston.
Wow. Vision without execution is just hallucination. And that brings us to the absolute perfect culmination of this metaphor. The final piece of the WNBA sequence features Angel Reese. Cause. Not every bucket's a three. I miss a lot of shots you don't see. But I rebound my own miss like Angel Reese.
Of all the mechanical insights hidden in this album, that line is perhaps the most profound revelation regarding the reality of generative AI.
Let's unpack the reality of that. Because the public perception is that AI is magic. You type a prompt and a masterpiece appears. But the reality is that you generate an enormous amount of absolute garbage.
Oh, you miss a staggering number of shots. The prompt hallucinates. The cadence of the rap flow stumbles. The bass frequency distorts the vocal track. A passive consumer encounters this failure, assumes the tool is broken, and stops playing. They just walk off the court.
But Angel Reese is historically famous for her rebounding streaks, specifically her ability to aggressively rebound her own missed layups, going back up 2, 3, 4 times until she scores.
And that is the exact, literal blueprint for AI iteration. The true creator doesn't expect the first prompt to be a three-pointer. When the machine generates a flawed output, a missed shot, the creator doesn't quit. They rebound their own miss.
They take it back.
Yeah. They take the 5% of that flawed output that actually worked, they feed it back into the machine as a reference track, they adjust their parameters, and they prompt again. They iterate, they refine the current.
They rebound their own miss until they get the W. That is how you double U. That is the mechanism of 10x growth.
It is the perfect synthesis of the entire creative philosophy we have been exploring today.
It really is. When you step back and look at the massive architectural arc we've decoded in this deep dive, it's genuinely staggering. We started by examining a 90-day learning sprint, a frantic, high-volume immersion designed explicitly to stack technical skills and shatter the illusion of passive AI consumption.
And we watched that raw, brute force learning phase evolve into the deliberate, highly structured brilliance of organic machine. We explored how esoteric frameworks, like Nikola Tesla's 369 mathematics, were utilized not as mystical trivia, but as load-bearing structural pillars to map the journey from raw manifestation through the friction of applied pressure to the ultimate Cartesian mastery of human thought.
We broke down the computational difficulty of lyrical cinema, analyzing how intricate sequences featuring Tom Hanks and Dwayne Johnson were engineered to symbolize masterful versatility and brute resilience against the algorithmic defaults of the machine.
And we examined the operational metaphors required to survive the data deluge. From standing on the roof like Dr. Frankenstein to catch the raw generative current, to organizing the resulting chaos in the mind palace of Sherlock Holmes, all anchored by the archetypal historical depth of biblical competency.
And finally, we grounded all of that soaring philosophy in the gritty reality of the daily workflow. The absolute necessity of Joe Clark's internal discipline, combined with the resilient, rebounding iteration of the WNBA. All of these disparate cultural elements, structural math, and rigorous workflows were woven together by Walkingkeys to form a cohesive, modern blueprint for creation. An album that drops on June 18th, 2026.
Ultimately, the takeaway here is the core thesis that Walkingkeys etched onto that fracturing classical bust. Generative technology, no matter how seamlessly it mimics reality or how quickly it accelerates production, does not and cannot replace authentic human creativity.
Right.
It simply raises the ceiling of what is technically possible to execute in a single lifetime. But that ceiling can only be reached, and the resulting art will only have meaning if human consciousness remains the original source code.
Right.
The human must endure the friction. The human must organize the chaos. The human must provide the spark. The machine is merely the amplifier.
You are the music. The AI is just the speaker cone. Which brings us right back to where we started today. Remember that roller coaster metaphor? That comforting, frictionless feeling of pulling down the harness, letting go of the steering wheel, and just passively consuming whatever the algorithm decides to generate for you.
It's hard to look at it the same way now.
It really is.
Yeah.
Well, based on the blueprint of Organic Machine, I want to leave you with a final thought to ponder as you step back into your own life and your own interactions with this rapidly evolving technology. If your mind is indeed the original source code, and AI is just the raw elemental lightning waiting to be directed, what kind of organic machine are you currently building? Are you still just standing out in the storm, passively hoping the lightning strikes something beautiful? Or are you ready to become Frankenstein, build a laboratory, step out onto the roof, and actually direct the current? Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We'll leave you to mull over your own potential for that 10x growth.